You ever meet someone who smiles too much, talks too soft, says all the right things, but still gives you that tight feeling in your chest, like your instincts are trying to whisper, "This isn't what it seems"? That's not paranoia, that's perception, and the people who fear it are the ones who benefit when you ignore it. See, deception doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes it asks questions, innocent ones, harmless ones, until you realized you just handed over the keys to your mind and you didn't even notice the door open. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing. It stands ready, firm, and rooted." That's what today is about, sharpening your footing. So, when manipulation comes dressed in kindness, you don't flinch, you don't fold, you see it. And that alone is power. Let's begin. Question 1. What? You don't believe me? There's a moment we've all had, maybe with someone close, maybe with a stranger, where things just didn't add up. You pointed it out gently, maybe asked a simple question, or just sat there quiet for a few seconds too long. And then boom, they hit you with this line, dripping with disbelief and fake offense. Wait, what, you don't believe me? Now here's the thing, this isn't a real question. This is bait. It's emotional bait, meant to make you feel like the bad guy, like somehow you're the one being unfair or dramatic for simply listening to your gut and looking for the truth. It's not curiosity, it's a guilt trap, because suddenly the whole situation shifts. You're no longer calmly examining the facts or looking at what's real. You're being asked to pick a side on the spot. Either you believe them and smooth it over, or you don't. And now you're the problem. You're the one making it weird. You're the one being difficult. And the way this question is delivered, it's always designed to put you on your back foot. That fake shock, the wounded tone, the slight laugh that says, "I can't believe you'd think that about me." It's all part of the show, but deep down, they're not surprised. They're scared. Scared that you're starting to wake up, that your silence isn't submission, that you're actually seeing something they tried hard to hide. Now let's zoom out and bring in the Stoic perspective, because this is where things get clear. Seneca once wrote, "Truth does not need shouting, only lies do." And that right there slices straight through the fog. The truth doesn't beg, it doesn't perform, it doesn't need an audience. And it certainly doesn't panic when someone wants to verify it. So if someone reacts this strongly to your doubt, you have to stop and ask, why does your disbelief shake them so much? A confident, honest person doesn't fear questions. They welcome them. They expect you to ask because they've got nothing to hide. But a liar feels threatened by curiosity because curiosity leads to cracks and cracks lead to truth. And truth for them is dangerous. So the next time someone hits you with that line, "You don't believe me," you don't need to defend yourself. You don't need to get angry or flustered or suddenly start explaining your every thought like you're on trial. Take a breath, lock into calm. Then say something simple, grounded and sharp. Belief isn't the issue. Integrity is. That one line, it flips the entire power dynamic. It reminds them, and more importantly reminds you, that you're not here to be emotionally blackmailed into blind loyalty. You're not handing out trust just because someone demands it. You're looking at behavior, patterns, energy, actions, the real stuff. Liars hate that, because now you're not playing by their rules. You're not sitting at their table. You've built your own with legs made of logic, boundaries, and calm awareness. They can try to shake it with tone, guilt, performance, but it won't move. And look, let's be real. Sometimes this line comes from someone you care about, a friend, a partner, a family member. That's what makes it sting. But Stoicism isn't about cutting people off the moment things get hard. It's about cutting through the fog and seeing clearly, even when your emotions want to take the wheel. So hold steady. Trust your instincts. Trust the tension in your body. Trust the fact that you notice something. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. A man who lives for truth doesn't flinch when people get uncomfortable because he knows that silence, when used with strength, is more terrifying to a liar than any accusation. When they ask, "You don't believe me?" Don't panic. Don't play. Just pause, breathe, and see who gets nervous. That's your answer. If this resonates with you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Level Stoic channel. Stick around, we're just getting started. Question 2. Are you really going to make this a big deal? Sometimes a person doesn't need to lie directly to throw you off. They don't yell, they don't get angry. They just lean in, look at you with that soft, puzzled expression and say something like, "Come on, are you really going to make this a big deal?" Now, let's break that down. Because that sentence, though it sounds casual, is one of the smoothest deflection tricks in the manipulation playbook, and most people fall for it without even realizing it. You start second-guessing yourself. You think, maybe I'm overreacting, maybe I should just drop it. And just like that, your boundary gets erased, not by force, but by guilt. Let me give you a real-life example, something you've probably seen or felt before. Imagine you've been working on a project for weeks. You've been putting in the time, doing the late nights, handling the pressure, and you've finally got something you're proud of. Now imagine during a team meeting, your co-worker casually drops your idea like it was theirs, word for word, delivery and all. And suddenly, everyone's nodding and giving them credit like they just invented fire. You sit there stunned, your stomach tightening, heart beating fast, because you know what just happened. And they know too. After the meeting, you pull them aside, calmly and clearly say, "Hey, that was my concept. You didn't mention my name. That's not okay." And without missing a beat, they give you that familiar smirk and say, "Wait, are you really going to make this a big deal?" And there it is, the pivot. Suddenly, the spotlight is no longer on what they did. It's now on you, your tone, your reaction. Your decision to speak up becomes the problem, not their decision to take credit for your work. They flip the lens. And now you're the one defending your emotions instead of them defending their actions. That's not accountability, that's emotional sleight of hand. And it works because it plays on your deepest need to keep the peace, to not come off as too sensitive, too emotional, or too difficult. But here's what you've got to remember, and I mean really remember. Just because someone is calm when they say something doesn't mean what they said is harmless. In fact, the most damaging lines often come dressed in politeness, spoken in soft voices, laced with words that sound innocent, but are meant to silence you. Marcus Aurelius said it best: "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." That's the core of Stoicism right there. Not silence, not emotional numbness, but clarity. And when someone tries to blur that clarity by minimizing what matters to you, that's a red flag with bold letters screaming, they don't want truth, they want control. And here's the truth that liars and manipulators hate the most. If something violates your peace, if it makes you feel small, erased, cornered, or manipulated, then it's already a big deal, because your peace is sacred, your truth is valid. And your boundary doesn't require permission to exist. So the next time someone pulls this line on you, whether it's a co-worker, a friend, a partner, or even a family member, don't flinch. Don't try to prove why you're allowed to feel what you feel. Don't spiral into self-doubt, wondering if you're being dramatic or overthinking it. Pause, take a breath, and let the silence work in your favor. Then say something calm, clear, and firm. If it wasn't a big deal, you wouldn't be trying so hard to dismiss it. Say it without anger, say it without fear. Just say it like a fact, because that's exactly what it is. That line, it holds a mirror to their behavior. It doesn't accuse, it doesn't escalate, it simply shines a light. And people who rely on manipulation don't like bright lights. Remember, a Stoic doesn't react because others are loud. A Stoic stays grounded because he knows where he stands, and he knows what matters. And when someone tries to shrink your truth just to protect their own image, that's when you double down on clarity, not compromise. Because protecting your peace isn't making something a big deal. It's making a decision not to be walked over. Question 3. Why are you always so suspicious? There's a certain kind of person who doesn't like being questioned, not because they've done nothing wrong, but because they know that if you start looking too closely, the truth won't work in their favor. And when you finally do start to notice the cracks, when you finally ask the questions they've been dodging, they hit you with that classic slippery line. Why are you always so suspicious? Now, at first, this sounds like a simple question, maybe even a reasonable one. But if you take a closer look, and you should, you'll see it's not really a question at all. It's a reversal, a subtle little twist meant to flip the focus off of them and throw it right back on you. And if you're not ready for it, you'll fall for it, because suddenly, instead of talking about their strange behavior, their missing details, or the weird tension they've been creating, now you're defending your tone, your questions, your right to even be concerned. They want to make you feel like you're the problem, like your ability to see things clearly is a flaw, not a strength. But here's what you've got to remember. You're not suspicious. You're observant. There's a big difference. Being suspicious means jumping to conclusions before anything happens. But being observant, that's just noticing patterns, noticing inconsistencies, noticing when someone's words and actions don't quite match up. And that's exactly what manipulators don't want you to do, because observation is dangerous, especially when it's calm. Most liars expect panic, they expect yelling, they expect you to get defensive so they can say, "See, you're overreacting." But when you stay calm, when you don't flinch and you don't take the bait, that's when things get uncomfortable for them. Because now they're the one under the spotlight. Think of it like this. If someone gets upset just because you're asking honest questions, what does that tell you? So the next time someone hits you with that line, "You don't believe me," you don't need to defend yourself. You don't need to get angry or flustered or suddenly start explaining your every thought like you're on trial. Take a breath, lock into calm. Then say something simple, grounded and sharp. Belief isn't the issue. Integrity is. That one line? It flips the entire power dynamic. It reminds them, and more importantly reminds you, that you're not here to be emotionally blackmailed into blind loyalty. You're not handing out trust just because someone demands it. You're looking at behavior, patterns, energy, actions, the real stuff. Liars hate that, because now you're not playing by their rules. You're not sitting at their table. You've built your own with legs made of logic, boundaries, and calm awareness. They can try to shake it with tone, guilt, performance, but it won't move. So the next time someone hits you with, "Why are you always so suspicious?" don't get flustered. Don't explain yourself. Don't start rattling off reasons to justify why your gut is sounding the alarm. Just breathe, stay steady, and calmly say, "I'd rather question too much than regret too late." That one sentence does two things at once. It shuts down their attempt to guilt you, and it reminds you that you have every right to slow down and think things through. You don't owe anyone blind trust. You don't owe anyone blind belief. You owe yourself clarity. And sometimes clarity only comes when you pause and pay attention. And let me be clear, this isn't about becoming cold or closed off. It's not about living with suspicion or fear. It's about living with your eyes open. Because the truth is, if someone gets uncomfortable when you ask honest questions, it's not because you're being difficult. It's because you're getting closer than they want you to. So hold your ground. Ask your questions. And don't apologize for having eyes that see. That's not being suspicious. That's being smart. Question 4. Don't you trust me by now? There's a moment in certain conversations, usually when you've started asking just the right questions, or when someone feels like the truth is creeping a little too close, where they stop explaining, stop justifying, and instead lean into something that sounds like disappointment. They tilt their head, raise their eyebrows, and say in that quiet voice, "Wow, don't you trust me by now? Now let's stop there." Because that sentence might sound innocent, even kind, but it's not a question. It's a shortcut. It's not about building connection. It's about skipping steps. It's a subtle pressure move, designed to make you feel like you're the one doing something wrong, just for thinking critically, just for needing clarity. It's one of those lines that tries to fast-track closeness, like someone trying to cut in line, but emotionally. They don't want to earn your trust over time, through action, through behavior, through consistency. They want to demand it, right here, right now, just because they feel like they deserve it. But trust doesn't work like that. You can't just snap your fingers and make someone feel safe. You can't speed run your way into someone's inner circle and then get offended when they don't roll out the red carpet. And if we're being real, people usually pull this line when they're starting to feel the walls closing in, when their excuses aren't working, when your questions are starting to connect, when your silence isn't passive anymore, it's focused. So instead of answering, they flip the script. They say, "Don't you trust me?" And what they really mean is, stop thinking, stop asking, stop noticing. But the Stoic doesn't stop when things get uncomfortable. The Stoic doesn't speed up just because someone else wants the pressure off. He slows down, he watches, and he looks past the words. Because words are cheap. Behavior is truth. Marcus Aurelius said it clearly. Look to the behavior, not the words. And that right there, that's the shield, that's the compass. Because someone can say all the right things, play the part, smile at the right time, but if their actions don't match, none of it means anything. So when someone asks, "Don't you trust me by now?" Don't panic, don't feel guilty. Don't start scrambling to prove that you're not being cold or not being difficult. Because this question isn't about your character, it's about their discomfort with your clarity. And clarity doesn't apologize for asking the hard questions. Here's the truth. Trust isn't given based on how long you've known someone. It isn't based on how charming they are, how close you feel, or how many good memories you've shared. Those things are nice. But real trust, that's earned in repetition. It's built when someone shows you over and over again that they mean what they say and they do what they promise. It's built when they don't just talk about respect, they live it. It's built when someone holds your peace like it matters to them, not just when it's easy, but when it's inconvenient. So when someone tries to skip all of that and asks you for blind faith, that's a red flag, not a connection. That's someone asking for loyalty without responsibility. And the moment you hand over trust without seeing proof, you've just given them a shortcut, straight past your boundaries. Don't do it. Instead, stay grounded. Let them squirm if they must. Let the silence stretch. Then say, not with anger, not with sarcasm, just calm and clear. Trust isn't built by asking for it. It's built by proving it. That sentence hits harder than anything else you could say, because it can't be argued with. It's not aggressive, it's not emotional, it's just true. And when you say it like that, steady voice, still eyes, no need to explain, you take away the manipulator's favorite tool, control. Because control only works when you give in to pressure. But when you stand tall, speak simply, and hold to what you know is right, they don't know what to do with that. And here's the beautiful part. The right people won't be offended by that sentence. The right people won't need you to just trust them, because they'll show you again and again that they've earned it. They won't rush you. They won't guilt you. They'll respect your pace because they have nothing to hide. So don't fold when someone tries to rush your peace. Don't hand out trust like candy. Watch. Listen. Let people show you who they are. And if they ever try to shame you for being slow, careful, or clear, that tells you exactly why they never deserved your trust in the first place. Question 5. Can't you just let it go? There's a moment that always shows up. Usually right after the tension builds, the truth starts getting uncomfortable and the lies start showing their cracks. You're standing firm. You're asking questions. You're getting close. And then suddenly, they hit you with it. Can't you just let it go? Now let's be real, as on the surface, that question sounds like it's about peace. It sounds like someone trying to move on, trying to calm things down, trying to keep things simple. But if you listen closely, if you pause and feel the way it lands in your chest, you'll realize something deeper. This isn't peace, it's pressure, and it's not about closure, it's about control. What they're really saying is, I don't want to talk about this anymore, because the more we talk, the more I lose control of the story. They're not asking for healing, they're asking for escape. Because see, liars don't like the long game. They don't like the silence after the storm. They don't like reflection, follow-up questions, or that moment when the mask starts to slip and your intuition refuses to stay quiet. What they want is to hit the fast-forward button, to rush through the part where accountability lives, to jump straight to the ending where they walk away clean, no questions asked. But here's what the Stoics knew, and what most people forget. Closure isn't something you're given, it's something you earn through clarity. And that takes time, patience, and a willingness to sit in the discomfort. Seneca once said, "A guilty conscience needs to end conversations quickly." And once you've heard that quote, you'll see this tactic everywhere, in relationships, in friendships, at work, even in your own family. The moment someone feels the weight of truth pressing down on them, they look for the exit, and that sentence, "Can't you just let it go?" becomes their way out. But here's the thing, letting go isn't a problem. In fact, the Stoics believed in it. They taught detachment. They trained for calm. They practiced walking away from things that didn't serve their soul. But detachment isn't the same thing as avoidance. Letting go of pain is healthy. Letting go of lies before they're exposed, that's just self-sabotage. And that's what this question is trying to trigger in you. Guilt. Guilt for wanting answers. Guilt for needing to understand. Guilt for refusing to sweep something under the rug just because someone else is uncomfortable. But here's the truth you need to hold on to. If something still sits heavy in your chest, if something still doesn't make sense in your mind, if your body still tightens every time you think about what happened, then no, you're not ready to let it go. And that's not weakness, that's honesty. So the next time someone says, "Can't you just let it go?" don't snap. Don't explain. Don't start listing reasons or begging them to see your side. Instead, take a moment. Let the silence stretch. Let it breathe. Then say this, calmly and clearly, "I let go of lies. I hold on to what matters. And this matters." Say it without anger. Say it without apology. Say it because you mean it. And let that silence after your words hit harder than any argument ever could. Because real peace isn't rushed. It's not forced. It's not handed to you by someone who doesn't want to face the truth. Real peace comes when you've stood in the fire, asked the hard questions, looked the lie in the eye, and decided for yourself what's worth keeping and what needs to go. Letting go isn't a shortcut. It's a decision. And only you get to make it. So hold your ground, stay steady, and remember, not every peacemaker wants peace. Sometimes they just want you quiet. But you weren't built for silence. You were built for clarity. The sting of truth. These questions aren't random. They're crafted, rehearsed, sharpened like tools in the hands of someone who's been getting away with it for a long time. Because liars don't chase understanding, they chase obedience. And every word they say, every little tilt of the head, every innocent phrase is designed to pull you away from your own instincts. But the Stoic wasn't built to be fooled. He wasn't trained for comfort, he was trained for clarity. That's the difference. He doesn't raise his voice, he doesn't argue, he doesn't need the last word, because his power isn't in how loud he reacts, it's in how clearly he sees. So the next time someone tries to twist your sense of reality with one of these velvet-wrapped threats, when they laugh off your concerns, question your character, or try to guilt you into silence, don't panic, don't explain, and don't fold. Just stand there, still, unshaken. and let your eyes say everything your mouth doesn't have to. Because here's what they don't expect. They don't expect calm. They don't expect quiet certainty. They don't expect someone who sees straight through the fog and doesn't flinch. Truth doesn't need defense, and clarity doesn't shout. It just stands, firm, rooted, like a mountain in the middle of someone else's storm. And when you respond that way, when you refuse to be pulled into their drama, their guilt games, their panic, the game ends. Right there. Not with chaos, not with revenge, but with something far more dangerous, a quiet power that says, I see through you, and I choose peace anyway. That's Stoicism. That's strength. That's the sting of truth. And that is how you stop being the pawn. If you've ever said something and regretted it later, you need to hear this. 6 things an intelligent man never says. Words can expose you or protect you. Choose wisely.